Department previously, where they prosecuted Steve Bannon, the former aide to President Trump. Peter Navarro, the same thing. He was also held in contempt of Congress. But Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff, and also the former Trump staffer Dan Scavino were not. So if this goes down to the Justice Department and they do not, in fact, prosecute the president's son, you're going to hear from former President Trump and probably a lot of Republicans arguing that this is two tiers of justice. And the stunt today probably increases the chances that he will be held in contempt. Republicans are very mad at this stunt today.
Just a few more seconds of your time. And I know I had asked if there were cameras other than that of news. And the reason I would say that was because we know in politics, if you can create something separate from the event that's going on, if you can get earned media off of that, as they call it. So if there's some documentary out there that also gets a sideshow of play and interest, does this then give maybe a little sympathy to the president of the United States that his son is such a clown act?
We have to remember that obviously this is an election year, and what they're trying to do from the Democratic side and the president's side is create a counter narrative here, fighting back against, yesterday we had this closed door deposition here with Hunter Biden's art dealer. And if you're able, as I say, to create that counter narrative, put that out there and say, oh, no, this is not how they really are, because Republicans are obviously controlling the narrative here. This is their committee. They have the majority in the House of Representatives. That's what happens in politics. So that would be no surprise.
Great reporting as always. Chad Pergram will come back to you this hour as the news warrants. In focus now, South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry, who's had quite a moment. Republican member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees, and he was actually in the room for Hunter Biden's stunt. And you're there for that markup process. So what happened stem to stern the way that you saw it?
Well, he showed up. I think there was kind of a rumor that, Secret Service was in the room, and then all of a sudden Hunter is there at the start of this hearing. And it just kind of confirmed, I think, my biggest fear, if you will, is that he's thumbing his nose at the system that we have. He has lawfully issued a subpoena. He goes to the Senate, issues a statement, and skips town in the Suburban, and he does the same thing today. This is the arrogance that we see from the Biden family, in particular today, Hunter Biden.
So what happens next? I know they're still in the room. We were just told, my team was just told that it'll be several more hours of markup and getting documents ready to go forward. What does going forward look like?
I think Democrats are trying to muddy the waters, if you will. If you look at the amendments that they're filing right now, they're trying to do everything they can to distract from the fact that Hunter skipped town on a lawfully issued subpoena. And so we're going to have to work through a myriad of dilatory amendments by Democrats. And at the end of the day, both the House Judiciary Committee and Oversight Committee will mark up a contempt resolution against Hunter Biden and go to the floor.
And I believe it was Congresswoman Nancy Mace who said he should be arrested right now. Anybody else in the room among Republicans saying that same thing?
Well, I think probably a lot of people were wondering the process of that, the protocol for that. I mean, the man just a month ago before Christmas didn't even show up, and here he is today. But I think that just emboldens what we're doing. I mean, this is a pursuit of the truth. This impeachment inquiry is serious. We're getting to the bottom of it. A lot of the things that we have gotten over the last year have been stunning. Every week that has gone by has been worse for this president and this family.
So why not just go pick him up?
I think the contempt is probably the first protocol that when the House acts, at that point it's in the Department of Justice's hands to do that. And then we'll see, are we going to prosecute? Is there equal justice under the law? Or is there really a two-tiered system of justice that protects this family?
Do you have confidence in the justice system at this point, and especially after what you just saw, for him to get away twice, first in December and now?
I don't, but I think that's where they can shine and they can provide that equal justice under the law. Let's see if they do it. They obviously did it just a couple of years ago when Democrats issued contempt resolutions against Steve Bannon and other individuals. And so let's see if they're going to hold this family accountable for failing to appear before Congress in the same way.
Congressman Fry, I appreciate your time today. I know you're busy. You've got to go back into that room, and we will cover this as it continues to unfold. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now let's bring in Phil Holloway, criminal defense attorney, former assistant district attorney as well. Phil, and I'm going to ask my team, do we have the comment that Hunter Biden made? Yeah, let's just watch this, and I want to get your take.
Right ahead. Mr. Biden, why did you put your dad on speakerphone with your business partners if he had no involvement in your business?
Do you have a dad? Did he call you?
Yes.
Answer the phone?
Yes.
Okay.
But why did you need to talk to him during business meetings if he had nothing to do with your business?
Well, you're dangerous. You're very dangerous.
Is there anything you'd like to say to
He told our correspondent Hillary Bond she's very dangerous. I mean, I hear attorneys say all the time, okay, we're going to walk out of this room, just don't talk. I would imagine he got that pep talk too. What was that? And what's your take on the words he used toward a member of the media?
Well, Harris, this again shows, I think, extremely poor judgment. We've talked on your show before about this. When you're in a hole, a legal hole in particular, like Hunter Biden's in, the first thing you do is you stop digging. I thought that it was a bad idea for him to do that presser out in the parking lot of the Capitol building. You know, lawyers, trained lawyers like Hunter Biden and presumably Joe Biden and certainly Mr. Lowell, they ought to know that you have a Fifth Amendment right to keep your mouth shut, and that's what you need to do, because words are what gets people in trouble, okay? So he's out there in the parking lot giving the middle finger figuratively to the Congress on the day he was subpoenaed. And then today, fast forward, he comes back and he does it live and in person where they can see him in their own room in the House side. So he's literally digging his hole deeper and deeper and deeper. He's going to be sanctioned for contempt. There's no question about that. The big question, I think we talked about this the day before yesterday, is will the U.S. attorney actually prosecute him and hold him to the same standard? This gives lots of reason to do that, I think, now more than ever. If he doesn't prosecute Hunter Biden, then his credibility is shot. Calling
a member of the media dangerous for asking questions to try to get to the truth sounds like a whistle. It sounds like and that's the problem with it. We don't know what his intentions are, but what he said actually is dangerous. And
Harris, this is why they want to have the closed door, deposition, so that they want to avoid this kind of spectacle where he gives answers like that. They want to be able to nail him down to get substantive answers in a different setting.
Answers can't be threats to the media. Here's what Hunter Biden. Just one second, Phil, because I want to get your take on this, because you mentioned it, so I want to show the audience now. Here's what Hunter Biden said when he first defied that subpoena last month. This is what Phil was talking about. Let's watch.
There is no evidence to support the allegations that my father was financially involved in my business, because it did not happen. I am here to testify at a public hearing today to answer any of the committee's legitimate questions. Republicans do not want an open process.
Phil.
So this is why they've got to be able to do the closed door session. He makes this statement that, there is no evidence. Okay, if I'm going to question him in that setting, I'm like, okay, Mr. Biden, we heard you in the parking lot. You say there is no evidence. Well, we've got this piece of evidence right here, and I want to talk about it. Now, how does this square with what you set out in the parking lot? They need to be able to ask follow-up questions. The scripted pressers in the parking lot aren't good enough. Publicity stunts like the one you saw today aren't good enough. And just going straight to an open hearing isn't good enough, because he's going to try to turn that into a spectacle as well. They've got to be able to run their process the way that they see fit, which I think rightfully includes the first step of doing it in a closed setting with a transcriptionist there to take everything down. You got to be able to prepare for it. This is why we have depositions in cases before they go to trial, right, in like a civil lawsuit. It's so that people can prepare for the big show, okay, which is sort of the analogy here.
Committee Chairman Comer and Jordan of Oversight and Judiciary, respectively, have stated that they are fine with Hunter Biden testifying publicly after he complies with the subpoena. A deposition with staff attorneys. I mean, they've already said, look, you can go talk to the public. They didn't. Now, and his father, just remember, he's commander-in-chief. He heads up the most powerful military in the world, and he wants to call a member of the media dangerous, not once but twice on tape. So we don't know what his intentions are, and I know that that matters, but those words matter too. So was that just a dog whistle to say, I want to push these people back and let them know who's boss? Well, he's not boss, his dad is. And that's problematic in this process. That's going to get some attention. It's one of the reasons I played it. But look, they said you can still talk publicly. Now, I don't know if that continues. Can they go arrest him at this point, as one of the Congress people called for? I believe it was Nancy Mace today.
Yeah, I don't know of any mechanism to do that. There's no arrest
for
warrant
bucking the
that's been
subpoena.
issued.
They can't go get him.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have see the committee. It's not like a court where if you don't show up for court, the judge can issue a warrant for failure to appear and send law enforcement to bring you in handcuffs. Whether they have such a process, I don't know. Okay. But I think they've got to go through the subpoena process. The contempt process first. And of course, if the U.S. attorney does his job and prosecutes him, like he's done people that are affiliated with the former president, he had no compunction about prosecuting them when they failed to comply with subpoenas in much less egregious ways, I might add. If he does his job and prosecutes him, of course, then he can be arrested. But to send the sergeant at arms to physically drag somebody in handcuffs, I don't know that that's quite the appropriate thing right now. But if Hunter Biden continues this type of behavior, if there's a way for Congress to make that happen, I think you saw in that clip we just saw that there is certainly at least some political will to do something just like dragging him in.
Phil Holloway, always great to get your perspective and expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, Harris.
House Republicans want to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, and they are taking the first step to do that, and it's happening right now. You're looking at it live on Capitol Hill to the left of your screen. There is a lot going on this hour. Things are coming to kind of a head today. In that hearing right now, they are demanding accountability for the Biden border crisis that has spiraled out of control under Mayorkas' direction and watch. I mean, he's the man in charge of that project, not the Vice President, Kamala Harris, who's the czar of the border. We know she didn't get anything done, but he's head of Homeland Security. He's got to keep the nation safe. He's been failing. Plus, New Yorkers are furious over the illegal immigrant crisis in their city.
It is unfair that we had to move 2,000 migrants into a school, disrupt the education of 4,000 students, just to have to do it again if there is another storm.
So they just put kids on digital learning like it's a lockdown and a pandemic to make way for people who entered this country illegally. That's what's happening in New York City. Critics say city leadership has failed. Brandon Judd from the National Border Patrol Council in Focus next.
I have type 2 diabetes, but
House committee hearings considering resolution to hold Hunter Biden in contempt for defying a congressional subpoena. The moments ago, he was still in that hearing that he busted into. A shocking stunt by Hunter Biden, showing up on Capitol Hill, taking a seat in the gallery of the Oversight Committee markup. He then left as Republican lawmakers began firing off questions to him. His lawyer, Abby Lowell, tore into Republican lawmakers on their way out. Both committees expected, that you see on the right side of your screen now, that's the live picture, expected to pass that contempt resolution, and then it will go to the full House for a vote. We will bring you any news as we get it. Now, during all of that confusion, as Hunter Biden was leaving, you heard him shout a word: dangerous. We want to lean in on that now. That comment that Hunter Biden made into that scrum of reporters who were also shouting questions at him as he was leaving the Capitol Hill, he called someone dangerous. We initially believed that comment was directed to our reporter, Hillary Vaughn. We now know that was not the case. He said it to a different reporter who had tripped and nearly fallen on him. More news as we get it, coming out of what has really been a shockingly chaotic day on Capitol Hill. Now this.
I wish our southwest border was secure. I wish that our government was enforcing the laws passed by the Congress and doing its job to keep the American people safe. Unfortunately, Secretary Mayorkas has done none of these things.
It is now campaign season, and Republicans recently rolled out their impeachment proceedings against Secretary like a pre-planned, predetermined political stunt.
It is now lawmaker season because Capitol Hill is hot with activity today, and we're covering all of it. Tensions are high as the House Homeland Security Committee is holding the first impeachment hearing of DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Yesterday, Republican Senator Roger Marshall called for a vote of no confidence on Mayorkas. Here it is, what he had to say.
My colleagues and I have outlined numerous
candidates vying for a strong finish on Monday. The make-or-break caucus now 5 days away. Trump is on tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern. I'm Bill Hemmer in New York. Hello. We got a big 2 hours beginning right now.
Good morning. Secretary Mayorkas threatens our national security and our democracy. For the sake of America's safety and security, we need to impeach Secretary Mayorkas now.
Well, this is in response to the massive surge of illegal immigrants that we've seen pretty much ever since Biden took office. At the southern border, CBP sources are telling Fox News there have now been nearly 800,000 people coming in illegally just this fiscal year. Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council. Good to have you with me today. What does it say to you? Well, how are you feeling today, leading so many men and women at the border to see Mayorkas under fire?
Border Patrol agents nationwide are very happy that these hearings are taking place, in part because the American public is going to be able to get answers now. Part of our democracy is all about being able to make informed decisions, and the media and Congress has been trying to get Secretary Mayorkas to tell the truth since day one, and he continues to deflect. And so now in these hearings, they're going to have subpoena power. They're going to be able to get all of the information, and the American people are going to be able to see and make a judgment for themselves. Is this administration actually enforcing the laws? Are they following the law that says people that are in the country illegally shall be removed? Not might be, not could be. Are they being removed? And the facts are going to come out that people are in fact not being removed, and that this administration is in fact derelict of duty, which then falls on the head of Secretary Mayorkas. It's very important that we are given all of the information so that we can make informed decisions, and that's what these hearings are going to show.
And is it deeper than just Mayorkas being accused of not following any of what you just said, or is it enough to get rid of him?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to find high crimes or misdemeanors. I believe that they will be able to, because, again, if you're not following the law, then you're violating the law. And I do not believe in this particular case he's following the law. One of the things that's going to come out, we have had millions upon millions of people enter our country illegally. But since Biden has been in office, a fraction have been actually removed. So, again, they're not following the law. And I believe that that's one of the things that these hearings are going to show.
Well, and Mayorkas told our own anchor Brett Baer that about 70% of people coming in right now are being set free into the country. Then just a few days later, he bumped that up to 85%. That would be many thousand more let into the country with really unfettered access to whatever they want. All right, we'll move forward. Some parents are outraged in New York City this morning. Leaders relocated some 2,000 illegal immigrants to a high school because of heavy rain. They closed the school today, forcing the kids who would normally be there to learn via remote. That's pretty concerning, given the mass learning losses that all of our kids suffered due to the pandemic lockdowns. Students in New York City were out of school for nearly 2 years in that process. New York Congressman Elise Stefanik says this.
It outrages every New Yorker and every American. These parents now don't know what to do, and we know there is a negative impact when you're forced to do remote learning. So it is unacceptable. It's impacting real people. These crises that Joe Biden has created, number one, which is the border crisis, it's impacting and hurting hardworking families.
A City Hall spokesperson said, quote, the health and safety of migrants in our care is always a top priority. To be clear, this relocation is a proactive measure being taken out of abundance of caution to ensure the safety and well-being of individuals working and living at the center. Those illegal immigrants have been reportedly moved back to a shelter, Brandon, today. Here's the point. They can do this anytime. And it's clear now, as they've said, what their priority is.
Yes, this clearly shows that illegal immigrants are more valuable than United States citizens, including our children. This is just another example of why this border security issue is so out of control and why we have to get our borders under control so that we don't have to face these issues going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're hearing about this sort of thing over and over in New York, but Texas and Arizona, these places have been dealing with this for so long. And yet they still were able to make American citizens their main priority. Brandon Judd, I will let you go. We'll come together on a different day. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Harris.
We are back with our Families in Focus series. You know, I had candid conversations with Republican presidential candidates and their families. Today, we'll take a watch again of Nikki Haley and her son and daughter. We started with DeSantis this week. We had Vivek Ramaswamy and his beautiful family yesterday. And today we talk about everything from growing up in politics to the role of the family in the Haley family. The full interview as we are 5 days away from the Iowa caucuses.
Veteran homeowners. Need cash but worried you can't get a home loan because of your credit? Here's great automatic authority.